Hello, thanks so much for joining us in this special program. Again, my name is Margaret Wong, and I'm here to introduce my very good friend, Miss Maritza Ruh. We traveled to India this January before the breaking of the virus, and we're so glad we went because if not, we would not have gone. So, here, Miss Maritza, may I ask you some questions?
Of course.
Oh, thank you. So tell me about yourself because I respect you so much, what you do, who you are.
Well, thank you for having us. So as you mentioned, we met on our India trip and we spent quite a bit of time learning about each other. We had a chance to discuss family and I guess the part of the 8 children was intriguing to you. And so my story really began with 2 immigrant parents. My mother escaped from Havana, Cuba, back in the 60s, and under Operation Peter Pan. And my father escaped from communist Yugoslavia when Tito was in power and lived in Greece for some time, and then made his way to New York City. And both parents took different routes, but they ended up in Buffalo, New York. And they met each other, and they got married, and they had me, and only child. And so I'm first generation in this country, first to attend college. And so for me, having children was a very important part of my life. And so then I went on to have 8 children, and they've been an incredible blessing for us.
And how do you tell me your story about how you met your husband and also what made you have 8 children? I mean, look at her. She's so young and beautiful, and you need to hear about her children. And that's just totally awesome. I think the story.
So I was working while I was at school in college. I was working at a bank, and a friend of mine and I went out to dinner, and we decided that we were going to live together. And so she and I got the newspaper, and we started circling different apartments. And I went through, this was now a Saturday, and I went through all of the listings, and nobody answered the phone, which was kind of curious to me because it's a Saturday, and you would think that working people would choose a Saturday to find apartments. And so I happened to choose one of the last listings, and by coincidence, someone had picked up the phone, and it turned out to be an answering service. And I was just about to hang up the phone, and I thought, okay, I'll just answer the woman's question. And so I left my name, I left my phone number, and I hung up the phone. And I said to my girlfriend Kim, I said, I guess we're out of luck. Nobody's around to show us an apartment. Within, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, Jack, my husband, called. And so we got to talk, and I said I was interested in the apartment listing, and he said, if you want to come take a look at it, come on down. And so Kim and I jumped in the car, and we drove to the west side of Buffalo, and walked through this old building that Jack, my husband and his brother had renovated. It was a 12-unit apartment. They converted it to a 6-unit, and walked through it, and I signed on the dotted line. And so Jack was my landlord.
That's awesome.
That's how we met.
And she's such a humble woman. But number one, she really is a lot more wealthy than she looked. Number two, tell me about your business. She's really very much a businesswoman. If you look at her, she runs a beautiful home. With her 8 kids, she didn't have household help. You would think at least she have someone who live in to help her. She doesn't. And actually, I was in her house for dinner, and it was an awesome dinner. I mean, she did so much herself, the candle lights, the air, I mean, the backyard and the cakes. I mean, it's just, so tell me about that. How do you find time to run around the house, own your own business, become wealthy and save all the money in the world? So tell me about that.
So you're very kind. Really, I emulated my parents. They came from these countries. They came because America represented hope, and they understood that through hard work that they
Look at those earrings. Look at those earrings. They're like Kim Kardashian. You know, I'm awed by, and she's so humble. And I hope, I mean, that's why I want to hear women like that, because normally you don't meet women like them, because they're not the loud, you know, the Beyonce woman, but then they're also immigrants, but then they run a bit. You should see that. Later on, we're going to talk about the children. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just so impressed. I look at you like, and look how beautiful she is. I mean, oh my gosh. And she eats. It's not like she's on a diet too. So tell us about, I'm so sorry. Yes.
So, I forgot where we were.
About your business ventures and how you run this house, the beautiful home.
So
no help.
Yeah. So you know, I learned a lot from my parents. They came here with nothing, but they understood that if they worked hard, that they would succeed, which was impossible in their respective home countries. I didn't really get to know my father until I was about 15 or 16, because he was always out of town. He was a painting contractor, and it was easy. The barrier of entry into painting was easy. All you needed was a brush and a can of paint. But he did work with some Greeks in Buffalo, and he learned the business and developed enough experience and enough confidence that he went out on his own. And so he spent a lot of his time out of town, and he would bid apartments and bridges. And, you know, he really was a hardworking man. And he would tell stories that his crew would rent 1 or 2 apartments, and they would all cram into these 2 apartments, sleep on the floor, just to save money. And so they did a lot with very little. And so by the time I was 16, that's when he had a little more free time. And that's when we spent some time together. So, you know, how do I do what I do? What I do really stems from watching them work, starting off with nothing, very little, and watching their success story. And I'm just so grateful that they made the trek to this country, because were it not for them, none of this would have happened. And so I pass on to my children what I've learned. And each of my 8 children, they have been gifted with all sorts of skills and talents. And I feel as a parent, my role is to identify what those gifts and talents are, and then encourage them and push them in that direction. And they are all different. They're the same in terms of their foundation, but they all have varied interests, and each of them are in different sectors of the economy. You know, one's an accountant, CPA, one's in law school, one's a doctor, one's in, you know, data analytics, one's studying fashion, and one is in construction management. So they're all very different, but they all understand the value of hard work. And it's a very satisfying proposition, you know, to work hard and to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but to be proud of a job well done. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Good. Now we really have a surprise for you. We invited and managed to invite one of Maritza's daughters, Elizabeth, here, and we purposely wanted the mother and the daughter not to listen to each other, and I hope they didn't, and they didn't cheat on me. Meet Miss Elizabeth Ruh. Hi.
Hi, Margaret. Good to see you.
Yes. Good to see you too. So tell me about you, because I hope you didn't hear about what your mother have said. So tell us about you. How old are you? What are you doing now? And why are you so special?
So, my name is Elizabeth. I'm mom's fourth daughter. I'm an identical twin. Nikki's 3 months older. She attended University of Buffalo for medical school, graduated 2 years ago, and now I'm there studying law. So, as I may have mentioned, 27. I graduated undergrad from Elon University in North Carolina, got my master's at SMU in accounting, and I worked as a CPA at PricewaterhouseCoopers down in Dallas and then New York. And when COVID hit, I had always kind of toyed with the idea of going to law school, and it seemed like it was the right time. And so I applied in the summer to attend law school, and I started my first year. So.
Uh-huh. And what's your experience after work with a bachelor's degree, after work for 5 years with a major accounting firm, and having a master's degree in accounting and passing all the CPA tests, and at such a young age already going to law school? So what's your future goal? What's your future dreams? And what do you want to become?
So I'd say one of the benefits of working in public accounting is you get a lot of experience right off the bat. I mean, of course, there's a lot of hours, but also you have the opportunity to manage people at a younger age than you may have done at a smaller firm. So my time in Dallas, I learned both like tax law and tax compliance and tax consulting services for financial services clients, but I also learned management and soft skills working in a larger organization. In terms of what I will do with my law degree, I, of course, could go into like business type of law. I'm kind of going to see where I land. If I do want to stay in Buffalo, I'd likely pursue that route. But perhaps maybe get into human rights law. So I'm keeping my options open as to what my future will look like exactly.
And I'm so proud to be able to get both of you to come on our show, because one of my dreams, and your mom knows that's why I didn't want you to listen to both of us, is that I really think, even though you guys are white, I mean, it's wonderful to be white, but we always see as ethnic people like us, the Asians, the Latino people, the Russians, I mean, people that's foreign born. We see people like your mom and you as having made it. I mean, we don't think of especially me, I don't think as your mom as a first generation immigrant until I really got to know her. I see her living in this big house, owning this successful business, having a probably wealthy husband. So I assume probably the husband made a lot of money. I mean, we don't assume, I mean, it's not like we judge, but I just thought it's so nice that our listeners and our audiences and our people who came to America when they were teenagers or when they were very young or they were older like us, they see people, even though like your mom, she's white, she's very successful. I never thought of her as an immigrant. I never thought that she had to work hard. And I know it sounds really racist, but I really want our listeners to know, just because we are beautiful, we live in a nice house, it doesn't mean we didn't work hard. Especially for the DACA kids, for people who work in agricultural, for people who just gave us an email saying that, oh, thank you so much for your work permit. Now I know a house. I own a house. It's so much more than that, because your kids and your grandkids, which is Miss Maritza here and Miss Elizabeth, look at what they have accomplished in such a short time. So diversity is important. It doesn't matter if we are white or black or blue or yellow or something. We just have to have that dream. We have to go to school. And look at you, you're only 27. You already have a bachelor's, you already master, you passed all your CPA exam, and you're already in law school. 27, I mean, look at this. So, and your life haven't even started compared to people like us, because you're not married yet, you didn't have your own kids yet. So I'm just so honored that our guests got to meet both of you and to compare a first generation and a second generation kid And people like us who just started this journey, like they may have come 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and they haven't had, all their kids are just becoming your young mom when she was young, you know? So again, tell me a little bit, and I haven't really understood the answer yet. How do you throw parties? Do you write a list down? And how do you bid on projects? Because you manage constructions, your own real estate. So how do you do that? In the meantime, you have to meet, I noticed you have to meet with a CPA tomorrow. And then today you came to on our show because I bet. And then your daughter came from New York. So how do you do all this? And I saw you working when I was on the other show.
Yeah. So I would say that I am really good at multitasking. I can spin a lot of plates, and I can focus and shift my focus from task to task. I think that has really been helpful. And again, I think that that's something that I learned from my parents, because they had to do that. If there was something broken in the house, they really weren't able to call someone to come in and fix it. They had to fix it themselves. And so they learned very early to be very self-reliant. And if there was a problem, they solved it. And I learned that from an early age. And that's kind of what I was told. You know, if there was a problem, you know, you need to assess the situation and you need to resolve it. And after practicing it so many years, I got really good at it. So I'm able to pivot, and I'm able to focus on a lot of different things all at the same time. And I really never thought of it as a gift until you just asked that question. But I guess it is. And I would say that my husband is also very good at it. And we work in tandem together. We work very well. So there are things that he's very skilled at and very good at that I just pass off to him, and vice versa. If there's something that I'm good at, he will give it to me. And so we work together as a team. Everything that we do revolves around our family. Every decision that we make revolves around this cohesive unit. And we both share that goal and that understanding. And it just works.
Good. And may I ask you 2 more questions? Number one, do you really trust any man, especially your husband, that much? And do you actually have your own bank account, save your own money for a rainy day? And what happened? I mean, one day if he maybe found, I don't know if I ever trust any man, but how do you feel about that? I mean, do you trust this? Because I always thought Chinese women, we are sort of a little bit tougher.
Mhm.
You know, we came to America, we suffered enough. That's my first question. The second question I have is, you're only 55, so you're not 70 like me. But what's your legacy? What do you want your tombstone to say one day?
So your first question. So I have a Christian worldview. And that informs a lot of the ethos in my life. And so do I trust my husband? Yeah, I do. Implicitly. And it actually means something to me till death do us part.
Mm-hmm.
And I live my life that way. And so my husband is also very famous for saying, you know, I trust that person until they give me a reason not to. And so that's how I approach life. I trust people until they give me a reason not to. So that's the first question. The legacy that I'd like to leave to my children and to anybody who knows me is that we are on this planet for a very, very short period of time. I believe that God has gifted us with certain skills and talents and passions, and we are to be the hands and feet of Christ and make a difference in people's lives, whether it's a smile or today I stopped at McDonald's to get a cup of coffee, and there was this beautiful Egyptian woman, had a gorgeous accent, and I told her, and she just lit up. And something so small as to just say, you have a beautiful accent. I really believe it made her day because she certainly acted that way. So I believe we all have a responsibility to each other to be a positive role model in each other's lives and to help each other. So I'd like to share that with my children, and I would hope that they would continue in that regard, advocating for the underserved and people who really, really need it.
Mhm. And do you think your relatives, your husband, your children, I mean, it sounds really like a bad question. Do you think they appreciate you because you do so much for so many people, just to help and to love and to care, and you do so much. Do you think people appreciate that?
Do they appreciate it? I think that until someone is in that moment, that they understand the complexity of what's going on, do they really appreciate it? And I'll give you an example. My oldest daughter recently got married, 2019, and she's pregnant. And so now she's living through pregnancy. And she's uncomfortable, she can't sleep, her back hurts. And so she's living through these elements of child rearing or carrying a child. And I think that in those moments, that's when she really appreciates, wow, I'm having one child and mom had 8 children. So I think it depends on the circumstances, and people will have a glimpse into how complicated or how difficult it might be. And I think at that moment, that's when they will share appreciation.
That's beautiful. And again, my good friend Maritza Ruh and her daughter, Miss Elizabeth Ruh, and also I really am so appreciative of them coming on the show today, because for me, it's always about people of color, and we have to be different. Because we're different, we are this, we are that. But I look at them and I say, oh my gosh, they're white. They're nice people. They're my good friends. So I guess it's okay to be white, I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but it's great to be white. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. And they also have the same dreams. They have the talk about family, because before I came to America, a lot of people like us were always thought, oh, American people, they don't care that much about their family. They don't care about the parents. They're just caring about the husband and wife. And then, they'll get pregnant and they go somewhere to get divorced. But look at them. And so I'm just so proud and honored to be their friends. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And my good friend, Miss Marissa Wu. And thank you for listening and to watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.